Hello and welcome to SMPD, where we look back at the shows that shaped our childhood. I am Chris Bolton. With me, as always, my partner in podcasting, Mr. Mark Williams.
Hello.
And have we got a treat for you, listeners? It wasn't a treat for us, believe me. But
Bury the lead.
we have rewatched 1994. I think it came out in 1994's VR Troopers.
Yeah, no, I remember this, right? I remember this coming out, and I remember being really disappointed at the time because it's fuck all to do with VR. Like VR, now it's they've kind of got it, but at the time it was the big chunky headset and all those are very polygon based graphics, and it looked really shitty and really crap. And I was expecting this to look something like fucking Tron.
Okay,
and then when I got it, it was just a fucking Power Rangers ripoff with no VR in it.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up later on. I figured we'd have a discussion about that, so let's start there then, I suppose, because I was going to bring that up. Yes, fuck all to do with VR, is it?
I mean, the explanation, and I think for people listening, we only managed to find like a handful of episodes in English. This was very difficult to track down. I've watched 2.
Yeah.
This was very difficult to track down. They weren't in any sort of order. One was from season 1, one was from season 2. So I've had to try and go back and read what the alleged plot was. And yeah, it was just really different. But the explanation they gave of virtual reality, it's more like a multiverse. It's more like there are realities alongside our own, which somebody has the ability to move between, which has fuck all to do with VR.
No, nothing at all. Now, I remembered this first time out as well. It came out not very long after Power Rangers, actually.
A year after, I think, in this country.
Yeah. I was old enough to know better when Power Rangers came out, but I still watched it and loved it. And I was definitely old enough to know better when this came out, but I remember I still watched it. But I couldn't remember too much about it other than the theme tune when it started.
I remember the theme tune. I remembered some of the designs, because obviously a lot of the character designs are very similar to Power Rangers. Like the uniforms are more involved, but no, they're still kind of the same thing. So I remembered that. I remembered that big that big sort of ship they had they used to fly around in. So yeah, I mean, I remember that. I didn't remember Grimlord. I didn't remember the way he looked at all. I didn't remember any of the villains. Actually, no, that's not true. Ibar, I remembered, who was so named because he had a bar for eyes.
Yeah, I didn't remember Grimlord until he popped up, and then I especially remembered Take Me Back to My Virtual Reality when he's sort of holding on to like the kind of onyx sphere kind of thing that he's got. But again, what I didn't remember was the fact that it has absolutely nothing to do with VR. And like I think I'd give them a pass on that if, like, yes, it's a multiversal type of thing, but one of the episodes I watched was the pilot, incidentally, and it is sort of kind of explained that like the doctor or the professor or whatever is inside the computer and he's in virtual reality. So this reality is Tron, basically, as you've said. They treat it like some sort of multiverse, but it's Tron. But I think I'd accept that it's just 2 different realities and we don't get to see any computer graphics and stuff if they ever actually went there.
Yeah.
But they don't ever.
Well, that was thing. It was always in their reality. Now, there was never anything where, no, from what I've seen and what I've read, there was never anything if they crossed over to the other side. There's never anything where they took it to the hordes of evil and went to where they lived. It was literally, there's a break in reality barrier. Again? All right, okay. Where are they coming through now? All right, it's the same dude as last week. Right, okay. Let's go back to that field.
Yeah.
Of our 1980 stock footage.
The quarry. Let's go back to the quarry because every fucking fight I've seen was in a quarry.
Yeah, it's quite funny because of all the stock footage they used. It's all him and stuff. It's the oldest footage they had. It's from like the early 80s,
and it shows.
It really, really does.
Yeah,
nothing matches. The characters are the three leads: Ryan, Caitlin, and the other one. Was it JB, JD, something like that?
It's 2 letters. It's either TJ, JB, JD, RJ, BJ.
Yeah, something like that.
That's BJ in the beer, isn't it? So it's not BJ.
Let's have a look. Hang on.
JB. Hang on. JB. Look, I was nearly there, wasn't I?
JB Reese. But yeah, so they are the most 90s fucking teenagers ever. That early 90s sort of prep school sort of look to them. Very much Nick from Saved by the Bell.
Teenagers, because like you don't really see them in school. Like she works at a fucking newspaper or something.
Yeah,
and the other two were always skiving off at the dojo. So
yeah, but it's kind of like they were. I think that it was that sort of end of school age where they just didn't want to focus on school. Like Power Rangers spent a bit of time with the kids at school, so you knew they were they were older teens, but they were still at school. This one they kind of didn't bother. But it's the whole thing that she's she's a budding reporter. It's not like she's actually got a job. It's like the fucking town hobby paper.
yeah.
And her boss's name, incidentally, is what was it? I just saw this now. This made me laugh. Like it really shouldn't have. And talk amongst yourselves. Fucking, his name was Woody, wasn't it?
I don't know. Pressure's on you, dude. I don't remember much.
I've just fucking read it. Yeah, I'll have to come back to it.
I remember that he was not like a boss at all.
Yeah, no, his name is Woody Stocker. Woodstock.
Nice. That explains a lot about his character.
Yeah.
That explains a lot, because that character is wacky and zany in ways that a boss should not be.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit fucking stupid, really. So yeah, lots of stuff for that. There's there's just lots of really shitty stuff. They've gone and said, right, we're going to give our three leads a bit of backstory. We're going to give them something to do, and everybody else is just going to be this really dumb cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem I had with this whole thing actually wasn't that the footage looked old or anything like that. Like, I'm fine with that. Like, it looks quite old and campy and cheesy, but we kind of know that's what we're letting ourselves in for. Like, that's the Power Rangers kind of thing as well.
And actually, the little minions looked better than the putty men from Power Rangers.
I would agree. So I've got no drama with that. I think the suits look pretty cool as well. I've got no drama with that. But it's just that actually none of this makes any fucking sense and holds together at all. It's literally like they just had the footage and they were like, well, what do we do around this footage? I don't know. Make up a bunch of skits, throw in some zany characters.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, of the 3 episodes I watched, I honestly couldn't tell you what happened in any of them. Like, there was one that was something about time travel. There was the pilot. And then there was one, I don't even know.
The slime one, wasn't it? The Detective
like
Coup. Where you've got one of the mutants tries to take over from Grimlord. But then when he gets caught out, he's a complete pussy about it.
But then the stories are so just fragmented and random. I mean, one thing I did like was that they have a framing device, because like Ryan's looking for his dad. So they have a framing device where he like goes to the temple that they used to train at, and they bookend each episode, with
nice
that
little voiceover, and
so that, I
him
mean,
looking wistfully off into the distance.
Yeah, I mean, sad Brian is sad. He's proper emo about it.
Yeah, but he's got floppy yellow hair. He's fine.
I mean, he's a proper like 90s sad emo kid, isn't he? But I like it. I like that gives us something to hang a much larger story on. I just feel like they don't bother. They just like, actually, here's a bunch of fucking fights. I mean, this bugged me so much how inconsistent this was that I did actually have to go and do some reading and work out what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
And it turns out that they burned through the stock footage so quickly that they actually started using footage from a completely different TV show as well.
Yeah.
And cut it all together, which is why at any given time you never ever see all 3 of our heroes on screen together in a fight.
Yes,
because they don't exist in the same universes outside of this. Like
because there's a couple. There was one that fucking Green Ranger had done called Cybertron, and they nicked a load of source footage from that as well. And it was just like, we just need more of this shit. Get what you can, and we'll make it work.
What strikes me as mad about that, all right, is the fight scenes that they have filmed, like the stuff that's done in America, then that's our real world, not virtual reality world. Like, that's not cheap. Like, it doesn't. Those fight scenes don't look cheap. Like, they're still pretty well choreographed. Well, they're not shot very well.
They're not shot very well, and the minions are shit at falling over.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're not.
There was one,
but they're expensive.
I think it was the one with the slime, with that one, where they find Caitlin and fucking forgotten his name already, TJ, JB. They're driving along and they spot this puddle of slime in another road. Now, I'm not being funny. You see a puddle or something, you fucking drive through it.
Yeah, I mean, it's It's viscous.
It's a
You can
puddle.
just yeah.
So, but they stop and take a sample because it might be bear piss or it might be something more important. And then they realize that there's some people working on a phone line that doesn't exist. Okay, right, fine. So they go and challenge them, and it turns out it's the little minions. So they're having this fight, and they're doing all these little fucking roundhouse kicks and little flicks and shit like that. And Caitlin gets behind one of them, shoves him in the back. He stumbles forward, and then when he's about a foot away from the van, he jumps headfirst into the van.
I clocked that as well.
I was like, seriously? Now, how did nobody pick that up? That if you were doing it, and if that had been a point of impact, and he'd stumbled and just walked into it, fine, that works. Or if you kick him and he jumps into it from the kick, fine. But don't kick him having stumbled and then jump because he just looks like a twat.
Yeah. So they're not the best, but they certainly they don't look like they've spared any expense. Like there's a lot of.
It doesn't look like we've done it in the garden.
Scenes. Yeah, there's a lot of people fighting in these scenes. They're all clearly well trained. They seem to have taken all the right sort of precautions as well. They're clearly cutting into close-ups of actors at given points. So if you can afford to do that, and this is 1994, and you're using stock footage featuring rubber monster suits from 1980,
that is 84, 85.
83. Yeah, you have enough money to recreate more of that. It's not difficult, is it? Let's be fair. I mean, all right, maybe they don't have the actual VR trooper suits, or maybe they copyrighted or something. Well, they can't be copyrighted because they're using the footage. They're using
the footage, so I mean, they must own the rights to use the footage.
Yeah,
but it's a bizarre one, and I think you're right. I think it's one of those that if you're going to say, right, we want to do this, then do it. If it's we've got this stock footage, we don't know what to do with it, we'll kind of work around it, and then we've got to fit it in and make do, then that's not doing your product any justice. I mean, the fact that your story's bollocks anyway doesn't help.
Yeah, I mean, there is even a point where Ryan suddenly has a brand new suit. His suit just changes entirely.
Oh, that's a story thing.
Yeah, I know. But it's also because it's a different fucking show.
Yeah.
Okay, you work with what you have. But for fuck's sake, you've got enough money to bring this stuff in and shoot all of this extra wraparound stuff around this Japanese thing. You're creaming fucking Power Rangers at this point. So spunk some of that money and just shoot some more. It could honestly, I have never seen, and we watched some shit. I have never seen such a poorly written TV show as this. It is all over the shop.
I don't know, Game of Thrones came close.
This is worse than Game of Thrones, without a shadow of a doubt.
If it had 8 seasons, maybe they'd have pulled it around.
Maybe. But it's all over this. The only reason, this was difficult to find, as Mark said, but I did stick with it, and I did find a couple of extra episodes. But we've talked before in the show about how sometimes these shows are a slog and they're difficult to watch and stuff. But this one was just excruciating. I could not make it through more than the 3 episodes that I've had time to. I couldn't bring myself to watch it because honestly, it was hurting my brain. I don't know what's going on at all. I have no fucking idea.
Well, that was the thing. It was painful, and I think that the disappointing thing, aside from the clear lack of VR, which still bugs me 20 odd years later, is that they've gone for the Power Rangers model. They've said, right, we've got the stock footage. We're going to build a world around these 3 teens, these 3 characters, and then we'll use that to get the fight scenes and whatever else in. So they've got that, and they've done that, and it's not as if the work hasn't been done to try and build these stories and try and build these, relatable characters and put them in these scenarios. I know the one I saw, the head of the dojo needed to go back to Japan to visit his family, but he needed $1,000. He didn't have it, so they were like, "Oh, well, we can come. We can do this. We can do that." So there was that that's a little human story which you always got in Power Rangers, and anything like you always got it because it puts them in a world you can relate to, even if you don't go to a dojo and you don't need $1,000. Who doesn't need $1,000? But even if you're not in that scenario, you can identify with these people who are a little bit older than you, so you can aspire to be them as opposed to being them yourselves. But they've got these suits, they've got these powers, they've got this world-saving stuff going on. But actually, they're just like you as well. They have real lives. So you've got that, and they've gone to the trouble of writing that and producing that. But then none of it matches, and none of it ties together. And you have the sort of the through line with Ryan's missing father in the first season. And then I think from what I've read, they find him in the first season, and then he runs off to go and work with the government on virtual technology. So basically, they didn't know what to do with him when they found him. Oh fuck, we'll get rid of him again. But yes, it's like they kind of had an idea, but didn't really know how to carry it off. So we'll just kind of meld it all together, and then all right, okay, well that's the natural point for this storyline to finish, but we don't have another storyline to run into, and we've been commissioned for another season. What the fuck do we do now?
I think again, it's that they had the story, and that's the most annoying thing. Like you had this ongoing quest for Ryan's father, you had the wraparound stuff, and you had the human interest stuff, and actually that they're not very good actors, and the sets look like they're made out of cardboard. But you know what, that stuff I can go with the our reality stuff.
Yeah,
I can follow and I can get on board with. It's when we start jumping back and forth, I can't understand a fucking word Grimlord is saying.
No, because his mouth doesn't move.
His mouth doesn't move, and then the actual sort of treatment that they put on the voice as well.
Yeah,
I cannot understand a word he's saying, so I don't know what the hell's going on with him and his mutants. Then there's always a weird random fight in a quarry, which is very badly cut together.
Yes.
So I can't work out what's going on there, and I don't understand how that ties into our main narrative half of the time either, because it doesn't. So I'm just like, what? How have you got half of it right? And then it's literally like they've just got this footage and they now know that people want to see it because Power Rangers is a thing and it's successful. So they've just gone like, fuck it, it's kids in it.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, well, what's big at the moment? What's going to be the next big thing in like technology? No, we're not going to have Zords. We can't do that. Power Rangers have done that. We've done it already. Oh, VR's a thing. That looks like it's going to take off. Spoilers, it didn't for about 20 fucking years.
Well, I'm still fucking waiting for VR. This is one of the things that annoys me the most about living in the future. Like, I want my flying cars.
Yep.
I want my hoverboard. And I want my fucking virtual reality. Where are they? Those are the three things we were promised.
Now, to be fair, I want my money for nothing and my chicks for free.
Well, yeah, there's that as well.
But yeah, you're right. No, it's something like VR is a thing now, and it's apparently a lot better than it was. No, certainly would have been back then, because back then, say, it was all CG graphics and that's it, all very much polygon shapes and single colors. There's nothing like you get now. But like, as a glasses wearer, I still can't fucking do it anyway. As for my contacts in, which then I can't move my eyes far enough to see all the way to the side without them popping out. So it doesn't fucking work for me anyway. But it's one of those, it's just like, that's the thing. We'll use that. We'll go for VR. We won't go for mobile communications, because that's them. They've been doing that since the Jetsons, but actually, that's not going to take off.
That's also not as catchy, is it? Mobile telecommunication.
But you could have come up with some some future technology that was going to be big and it was on the verge of taking off. They chose VR and they went, right, what does it do? I don't fucking know. Well, it's about reality, so surely it changes reality.
They know that it's about computers, and they know that it's reality,
and they know it's got the headsets. That's about it.
It's the easiest thing in the world to have them have to travel into the computer. They never do.
Yeah.
Or like, and this is the bit that really baffles me. If the reality break is the people from the computer, the mutants from inside the computer, coming to our world.
Yeah.
And then the VR troopers have to fight them, and they do things like they call down weapons. It's a bit like fucking Centurions. They'll be like, trooper, whatever, laser sword or whatever fucking weapon.
Because they eventually did that. They had like VR cannon and VR shoulder-mounted bazooka and VR dildo or whatever else.
Okay, fine, but how do they explain? Like the concept is that they're calling those through from the VR, right? But they have no kind of computer that they have to call them through or anything. Like, where does this suit come from? Why do they have these powers? But it would have been the easiest thing in the world to explain, of like, right, well, these things come through from virtual reality, but they're virtual reality, so you can't see them unless you have a virtual reality headset, which is built into the suit. Yeah. And then when you call down the VR fucking cannon or whatever, it's on your suit.
Yeah.
So like you're shooting things that nobody else can see, and you haven't really got this cannon.
Yeah,
but you are killing these things.
Yeah, it's like it's more like an augmented reality. It's that type of thing. And there was one I watched where one of them had a laser sword, which he very carefully called a laser sword.
Yeah.
And it didn't quite make the noise.
Not quite. I've seen that one as well, but it definitely makes a very similar noise.
Yeah. But it's like, right, okay, well that's fine, but what are you going to do with that? Because the thing you're fighting against is a big rubber suit. And as I said, it would be better off saying, right, okay, well, we need to fight these things in virtual reality. That's where the fight needs to be. No, you need because there's been a fundamental misunderstanding of what virtual reality is in the premise of this show, where actually they've gone, there's an alternative reality next door and they're bleeding together and you can hop from one to the other. No, they can hop from one to the other and invade us. Right. Okay. Well, that doesn't make any sense. There's nothing virtual about that. That's a real thing.
That's a real thing. Yeah, exactly.
And so the VR side just doesn't work.
No, it needs to be, Grimlord actually needs to be some sort of computer virus.
Yeah, it needs to be some sort of malware, effectively.
That's infecting the world's technology, and the VR troopers
has the potential to take our power stations or whatever.
Yeah. And the VR troopers have to go in and stop that happening. And yes, he can want to break through into our reality. That can be his ultimate goal.
Well, that's the thing. You can even go really meta where he doesn't realize he's a computer program.
Yeah, well, because there's this whole thing where he has his alternate identity as well.
Yeah, he's no Joe corporate schmuck.
Yeah, but okay, so he's already in our reality, and he pretty much, he's top level CEO of the biggest company. He's essentially Donald Trump. Okay, let's call it what he is. So he already rules our reality anyway. Yeah. He rules the virtual reality as Grimlord. So what the fuck does he want?
Well, that's it. And the question is, which one is his reality and which one is his virtual reality?
Well, exactly.
And then so which one is he trying to? Which one does he need to say?
Which
right,
one's
okay,
he invading, basically?
Yeah. Which one is he going to break out of and say, right, hang on, well, if that's what I want to do, which one do I need to know? Because I've already conquered them both. They can't physically exist in the same plane.
Yeah.
So it's one or t'other, or I'm going on some interdimensional multiversal conquering spree.
Yeah.
No, a la Man in High Castle, where we're just going to take over all the realities. And if that's your thing, fine. But it's just one of those. He's just a convenient villain.
Look, here again, if they play that angle with it, let's say, okay, there's a multiverse then, and he's jumping around between all these different realities and trying to conquer them. Again, that works if the internet and the computer is the gateway between all of these realities, and so our VR troopers have
an in.
They have to upload their consciousness. This is how you do this. This is easy, isn't it? Give them fucking VR.
I'm fairly sure. I'm fairly sure it's just the Matrix.
Well, it is, isn't it? Let's call it what it is. It is. In fairness, this is about 7 years before the Matrix. But you put them in some sort of augmented reality chair. They upload their consciousness and they have a fight inside the computer, which can then look like they're fighting in a fucking quarry. That's fine.
But they can be anywhere. They can be in a quarry. They can be on whatever abandoned set or abandoned lot you've got this week. You can be anywhere.
And it also gives you the perfect excuse as to why one of them is in a suit at any given time, because again, like the Matrix, that one is in the program, and the other two need to defend them whilst they're in the program because their physical body is vulnerable.
Yeah,
that's not hard.
That's pretty much every Call of Duty, isn't it? You've got to protect somebody who's defusing a bomb.
Yeah, that took us not 30 seconds to work out.
Yeah, this isn't hard. This isn't rocket science, is it?
It's basically the Matrix / Assassin's Creed. Is essentially what this is, or what this should be. That's not what this is. What this is a giant fucking mess.
This is Tron meets Power Rangers meets, oh shit, we've got some footage we need to use.
This is the thing. I don't even think it's Tron. I think it wants to be. But it doesn't.
Well, that's what I mean. It's trying to be Tron and Power Rangers, and they've gone, oh fuck, how do we do that?
I mean, look,
that'll do, smush.
Generally, you're the cynical one. Let's be honest. But
whatever do you mean?
I can't help but think this is literally some suit somewhere that's gone. Power Rangers are popular. Do you know what else is popular? Computers. Yeah. What's catchy? VR.
Absolutely.
Put VR on it. They'll buy it. VR.
Yeah,
Power
absolutely.
Rangers, in the same way that now we have fucking like Power Rangers Turbo and Power Rangers fucking
Ninja
Mega
X and
Force
Extreme
or whatever the fuck it is. It's just rebranding and repackaging to new kids, and that was the idea with this.
Yeah.
I definitely remember watching it when it was. I definitely did, because, like I say, I remember the whole take me back to my virtual reality thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I thought of it at the time, but the fact that I
hated it. I remembered hating it.
The fact that I could remember nothing other than the theme tune suggests I probably didn't care for it at all. Mind you, that theme tune I knew instantly as soon as it started. I had forgotten all about it, and as soon as it started, I was like, oh yeah, I know this.
Yeah,
it's fucking dreadful.
It is dreadful. I remember the same thing. I couldn't remember, and as soon as it started, oh yeah, there we go.
Fucking earworm. I've been singing it.
And they do that's a very early to mid 90s token bit where they sort of half rap.
Yes, well that's the thing, isn't it? It is very early 90s.
Yeah,
rubbish.
Yeah,
pop rap, basically.
It's horseshit, to be honest. But yeah,
yeah, call it what it is then. Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, I remember hating this when it was on because it was on ITV, and it was always on immediately after.
I was going to say it was a Saturday morning jobby, wasn't it? It was cut up.
It
was. On Saturday mornings.
It was cut up on Saturday mornings, and they also showed on a Tuesday, on in the afternoon block, and it was always on after Reboot. Now, Reboot was, for those who can't remember, it was an entirely CG show based in a virtual reality.
It's what this should be.
Infinitely better than this pile of bollocks.
Yeah, it's what
I always remember hating this because it was called VR Troopers, and surely it needed VR in it. And then we had a show immediately before it, which was it was entirely CGI, and it didn't look like a cartoon, but obviously wasn't live action either. And I was like, hang on, surely this should be that.
I mean, when you're standing this up, I mean, I don't remember it being on the afternoons. I definitely remember it being chopped up on whatever ITV Saturday morning show was at this point. It would have been too early for SMTV.
It was Motormouth, I think, with Andy Crane and Ben Elton.
That sounds about right. But they used to chop these cartoons up. These cartoons in these shows, you'd have them in like 10-minute segments.
Yeah.
And I can now only imagine, like, it was difficult following it like start to finish. I can only imagine now how confusing that must have been for me as a kid. But because it was only 10 minutes, I would have just been like, I'll go for a piss. Whatever.
Well, my thing would have been, I remember it being on. And my thing would have been, right, okay, it's 10 minutes, wherein I can do something else.
That's what I would have done.
It's on, and it's not going to bother me. I might read a comic. I might read a book. I might play with something. I might go for a piss. I might go and kick a ball against the wall for 10 minutes. I didn't have to watch it, and I could still, coming back to it, I'd still think, right, okay, well, that's the thing they're fighting this week. The fight's going to be in a quarry, and they're going to win. And then we're going to have Sad Ryan at the end.
Yeah, it might have even benefited from that, because all of the bollocks story you'd have had in the first 10 minutes, and then the second 10-minute segment after they'd done whatever interview they were going to do and stuff like that, and they tried to sell you 1,000,001 toys in the adverts, the next 10 minutes then would have just been kicking the shit out of something. And you've already forgotten what the story is because there wasn't one.
So you don't care because you just watch them kick the shit out of it.
Yeah, I'm going to watch them. Because, that's one thing I will say. This is fucking violent. Like, even by Power Rangers standards, this is fucking violent. Like, they really do kick the shit out of things in this.
Yeah. The other thing I'd forgotten about until I watched it yesterday or today, where the minions, they can't touch each other.
Why?
Because as soon as they touch each other, they dissolve and teleport back to their own reality.
Is that what makes that happen? I just thought they kicked the shit out of them until they...
No, it's as soon as they touch each other. Because the one, there was one I watched. I can't remember which one it was, but they're by the side of a road and they kick one into the other and they disappear. And then one is on the ground. One gets kicked and lands on top of a road sign, and then falls on the other one. And as soon as he falls on the other one, then it disappears.
I just assumed they'd kicked the shit out of them by that point.
And I'm sure I caught half a comment when somebody said, "I'll make them touch each other" or something like that, or throw them into the other. And that's when I sort of clocked it. That's how they disappeared. But again, it would have taken them half a second to explain how that works at some point in the show.
Just like to remind you all, kids, there should be no touching without consent. Anyway,
well, to be fair, this wasn't intentional touching. This was they get knocked into each other.
Yeah, what I couldn't work out with them was how, like, again, if this is just like a break in reality and what have you, and they come in from another dimension, how like 6 of those fucking dudes become one dude.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, it was only VR. They didn't have 3D at the time. So you need them all in front of each other to make it textured.
It's like an echo chamber. They just shoot out at the back. Yeah, I couldn't work that out either. Like, this is shit that needs explaining, and maybe it is, and we just haven't seen enough.
I think it's possible we haven't seen enough because we've only seen 2 of the 92 episodes.
Well, I've seen 3, so I'm 1 in front of you.
Yeah, that's still too many. To be honest,
I'm not proud of that.
I certainly won't be looking for any more. But maybe this is stuff that is explained as we go through. Maybe it's explained in the pilot. Maybe it's explained at some point in the first season, or maybe somewhere during the run. But it's, again, and we've called this out so many times, it's entirely disrespectful when they're just going to ask kids. They won't care.
Yeah, and I bet it's not explained. I'm willing to bet this is not explained.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one. I'm positive that nobody's going to go on, oh, why is it they melt back into their own reality as soon as they touch one another? Why is it that this happened? Why is it that happened? How does this work? Fuck it, who cares?
Why is any of this? Why is VR Troopers? What possible gap is this filling when this is already on in a world that has reboot, and like when we went off on a slight tangent there, but I was just about to say, I remember being on Saturday mornings, but if it was an afternoon show on CITV as well, all right, it would have been on different days, I know, but you're hearing this then shoulder to shoulder with, reboot, Nightmare, fuck's sake, which was an actual augmented reality show, like, and predates this probably by a good 5 or 6 years at least.
Yeah.
And that is what essentially this is trying to be. Kid puts a helmet on, walks around in a bunch of augmented reality rooms.
Yeah.
In a completely different universe.
Smash into a cupboard.
Yeah, gets eaten by a spider. And then we get the really graphic skull dissolving. I mean, so go listen to our episode on Nightmare, folks. You don't need us to tell you what it is here. We covered Nightmare way back when at the start of this show, very, very early on.
Yeah, very early. I think it was I think it was within 6 months.
Single digit episode, I think.
It might be like 13 or something like that.
Okay, that would make sense. But yeah, you have shows like that. You have also, at this time on CITV, you've got things like Bad Influence airing as well.
Yeah.
So you've got kids who are computer savvy as well.
Yeah. And also that they did start branching into like sort of kids sort of pseudo sci-fi stuff, like the Tomorrow People. They did a reboot of that with somebody from Neighbours. And so they were starting to get into this stuff, which was slightly edgier, was slightly older, was based at aimed at slightly older kids. And this is it's like it's not Arthur or Martha. It doesn't know what it is and where it belongs.
It really doesn't know what it is, other than a crass marketing idea. They want to sell toys.
Yeah, it's a Power Rangers ripoff. And I said, when we were talking about this on the weekend, before we'd even started watching it, I said I was expecting a Power Rangers ripoff.
Yeah, I mean it's subpar for that.
Fuck me, didn't disappoint. Yeah, it's a Power Rangers ripoff without the cool robots, which are the best bit. That's the only bit people watch Power Rangers for. That and Pink Ranger.
Definitely took the words out of my mouth. I would also argue though that actually in Power Rangers, I mentioned about the connective tissue of this, the stuff in the real world and how bad these actors are. Like, look, nobody's winning a fucking Oscar on Power Rangers, whether that be for Emmy even, whether that be for writing or performance or whatever. But all of the wraparound stuff around the fights in Power Rangers at least worked, and every episode had a point, and there was a story, and they managed to blend the footage into that story. People learned things and grew as characters.
I was going to say, not only did you have the sort of more coherent story, but actually you cared. So they built on relationships as well. So you had the relationship between, here we go, Tommy and Kimberly.
You can do it, yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to help you. I'm going to see whether he could do this.
Yeah, it's in there somewhere. So no, you had that relationship, and they very much built up on that. They built up on the fact that they did break up for when he lost his powers as Green Ranger and he had to go away and sort of refine himself and all the rest of it. They had that. No, they did a lot of work with the characters. So even though you did only have these 20-minute episodes, whereby actually 15 minutes of that is all violence. But in that 5 to 7 minute spare that you had, the 15 to 20, 22 minutes, actually, you cared about the characters.
Yeah, definitely.
And even
the
comic relief with Bulk and Skull, you even though they were shit, you wanted to know what happened. You wanted to see them get their comeuppance every week.
Yeah.
Whereas here, that you've only got Percy, who cares? He's not important. The secondary characters, that's the problem. They're not important enough for you to actually give a fuck about.
That's the thing. And I think not only then do you not have the window dressing of the secondary characters, like, because they don't really get that much chance to interact. I don't care about our leads either. Like,
yes,
I don't give a fuck about any of these people. And that isn't just because we've watched a small amount of episodes. Like, you could give me probably 2 episodes of Power Rangers, and I would have a favorite Power Ranger by the end of those 2 episodes. I obviously I do, because I've seen way more than that. But you know what I mean? If I come in clean, I know.
Yeah.
You could show that to a kid now, and then say, "Who's your favorite Power Ranger?" And they'll all say green.
Yeah,
but
that's
just the way it is.
Yeah, like you've got that 5-episode arc where they introduce green. Yeah. If you were to show a kid of about 8, 9, 10 that would be enough to get them into the show and keep them in the show until that iteration runs out.
Yeah, and it's also, you know, you get the investment in the Green Ranger from that, and I think it's fair to say he was most people's favorite. Yeah. But there's also,
it's because he had the cooler uniform.
It was because he literally had the coolest uniform and the coolest weapon, because he had the fucking sword and stuff. So we're all...
he had the little fucking flute, didn't he?
Yeah. So everybody's like going Green Ranger, right? But on top of all of that, and this is something we talk about a lot on this show, and it's definitely missing in VR Troopers, what Power Rangers had was representation in droves, before we even talked about representation as a thing. But, you know...
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about that when we did the Power Rangers episode as well. It was clunky as all fuck.
Yes, it was, but it was there. So, you know, for whatever your skin color or gender, there was a Power Ranger that sort of represented you in a broad, very broad term. Yeah. They don't do it well, and sometimes they do it offensively. A lot of times they do it offensively, but that representation was there. I don't feel like that's here at all, because these characters are so generic and cardboard cutout.
Yes, they are very bland.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is effort to at least show different skin tone, but we don't explore what that means to a character. There's nothing culturally relevant for any of these. They are just...
And bearing in mind, this is fucking Rodney King territory as well. This period in time.
Yeah,
and there would have been a lot of kids, certainly in America, going, "What the fuck? Yeah. Hang on, why are all those white people beating up that black man?"
I mean, this is the thing.
And no, there's a cultural melting pot, and you look at stuff like it's reappeared now. Like, you know, obviously, Falcon and Winter Soldier did a really good job on that. Watching a show on Amazon at the moment called New Amsterdam, and they've really started addressing that as well, and looking at sort of disparity between, and they're doing it in a way that sort of reflects a hospital, because it's a hospital setting, stuff like that. But the opportunities for advancement and improvement, the differences in pay, the differences in position, all this sort of stuff. And, you know, there's a lot that needs to be said at the moment, because that's the way where our culture is. But I mean, if you look at this would have come back off the LA race riots and Rodney King and all this sort of stuff, and they've gone, but you've got a mixed race guy as one of your leads, and we've got a black dude in the VR screen. That'll be all right.
Yeah,
it doesn't. We may be doing a disservice because we haven't seen a lot of it, but from what I've read, I don't get the impression they ever explore anything. There's no context to any of it. It kind of exists in its own little California bubble. Whereby
it seems to. It certainly does in what we've watched. And again, I think part of that is because there's such a heavy reliance on the imported footage.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's no wonder they burn through it so quickly, because, you know, of a 20-something minute show, I'd say a good 15 minutes is the imported footage.
Yeah.
And our wraparound is a couple of minutes where they just spout off gobshite exposition that you can't follow, because it's all talking about reality barriers and like, who fucking knows or cares? And then the dog talks for a little bit, and then
there was a reason for that. Apparently
the dog talking.
Yeah, apparently there was an accident in a lab, and now the dog is capable of human speech.
Oh, right. Sorry, there's a story reason for it. I thought you meant there was a reason they kept cutting away to the dog talking.
Because they had fuck all else to do.
Well, I mean, it is the same repeated shot that they reverse.
Although at one point, one of the episodes I watched, they had him sticking his tongue out and blowing a raspberry at a guy twice, and then the other time they had him was his eyes came out in stalks, like, you know, cartoon fucking Roger Rabbit eyes, and that was it. Every time you saw the dog, it was one of those.
I mean, I think that might be better than the talking dog, but only marginally. But the poking the tongue out thing again, that was all repeated.
Yeah, they did like 2 or 3 times in the same episode.
I mean, this looks like it was made for like a $5. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's clearly not, because stunts are expensive. Yeah. That cast will be expensive. Like, you have money, so do better. And don't say you don't have money, because at this point, you've got the biggest TV show in the fucking world.
Yeah.
Like, there's just put some of that Power Rangers bank into it.
Well, that's it. But I mean, obviously, what they've done is gone, right, well, they're separate properties. Rather than it's one company that owns the fucking lot of it, it's, well, that's a separate thing. We can't, no, we need to build VR Troopers until it's the size of Power Rangers, not use some of that bank to really enhance it. Yeah. Which is what you would think. And if you were making, say you were making making a series, or you're making a series of films, you say, right, the first one sets your stall out, and you need that one to hook people in for the second one. Second one, you don't say, right, we're going to make the same again, and we're going to first one cost us, I don't know, 20 million. The second one will cost us 20 million. You say, right, first one cost us 20 million, but it made us 50. Let's split the difference and go, let's make this one for 30. Let's just make those little improvements we would have made if we had the budget. Yeah, and you just keep improving and keep ramping it up to a point where you say, right, that one's made as much money as the first two put together. That one's made even more again. And that's what they should have done with the Power Rangers Bank. They said, right, we'll take some of that. I'm not going to be wrong. I'm not saying bankrupt the company. I'm not saying bet the farm on it. But take some of that profit.
You have the money. That's the point.
You take your operating profit rather than taking your capital. You take your operating profit and say, right, we're going to put that into the show as well as what we would have spent in capital. And we'll use that to do the extras, to get the improvements and the little tweaks we know we're missing, because you always know when stuff is missing.
Well, you'd hope so, but
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, no, but if you're doing something on this level, you would hope that you say, right, okay, well, we need more of that. We need to do this. We can't get away with that. We need to push this. Or another thing we said would be really cool to do. I think now is the time we need to do it. And you just keep on tweaking and fine tuning and getting it to a point where it's as good as it can be. And then the next one, you spend a bit more because that will have been more successful because you've done the things you want to do in the first place. And it just so self-perpetuates. It grows and grows and grows because you can say, right, we've got a bit of extra bank now. We've got a bit more money. We can put it into this, and we can just keep on improving it to a point where by the time we get to the end, it's the perfect fucking thing. It's the thing we wanted to make from day one.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at where a network, for instance, like Netflix is now, and I will call it a network because it essentially is.
Yeah, that's right.
Streaming service network, whatever you like.
Yeah.
Like when those Netflix originals started, there were like a handful of them, and they were relatively cheap to knock out as well. And then all of a sudden, Stranger Things comes along, and this thing takes off like a fucking rocket.
Yeah.
Now they could quite easily have just made another 3 series of Stranger Things and gone, okay, fine, we're done, pumped all that money into that, but they didn't. Now, their business model we know is questionable. We know they don't make a lot of money, but they constantly put that back into production and greenlight new shows and top slice those productions. And in doing so, they keep the content coming, and it does get better and better and better. Yeah. Like the production value on Netflix shows now is fucking insane. Like, and we're even going back, when I say this now, we're going back nearly 2 years now, but look at the cost of something like The Witcher. Yeah. And imagine Netflix doing that like 6 years ago. No way. They just
and it's the same now. You look, I mean, Amazon are doing the same. Obviously, they're pumping money into new stuff as well.
Yeah.
But they're branching off into sport and things as well to try and bring the money in. But like even Apple, my big criticism of Apple TV Plus when that came along was that the content is really good and the money is all there on screen, but there's not enough of it.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, and they said, right, well, we'll give that to people for 6 months. If they buy a new iPhone, we'll give them that for a year.
Yeah.
And because the money was coming in, they kept on investing in product. And now all of a sudden, over the last probably 3 to 6 months, the level of content has exploded. Yeah. But it's all the same quality as what you had originally. And they're only investing in this high level stuff.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, and it's still nowhere near Amazon and Netflix in terms of the level of content. But I can guarantee if I pick up any of the shows on Apple, the quality is going to be vastly superior than stuff that Netflix were churning out within a 12 month of starting.
Yeah, I mean, similar argument with Disney Plus as well.
Yes.
To say you want a network that hit the ground running, like, it's obscene the money on screen in those shows. Even now, we sit down and watch a new Disney Plus show. We were watching Turner and fucking Hooch the other day, right?
Which I'm really enjoying that.
It's crap, but it knows what it is. Like every episode is a spoof of another film, which I didn't expect. So I'm quite enjoying that. But like the fucking money on screen in what is essentially a fucking D-list production. Let's be honest, ain't nobody gasping for a Turner and Hooch remake. But the fucking obscene amount of money they're putting on screen in that is unbelievable.
And the thing is that they hit the ground running. They had all the Marvel stuff, they had all the Disney stuff. They then went and got started. They bought all the Star Wars stuff and put that on there. So that's all growing as well. And then on the back of the Fox purchase, they've now put all the Fox shows on there.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden they've got an adult market as well. It's no, I mean, we're probably exceptions to the norm, but that's how excited we were about Disney Plus. But all of a sudden you've got people saying, "Well, Walking Dead's on there, fucking Family Guy's on there, Simpsons is on there. I want that." And then they go on and they keep it because not only are those shows on there, they're discovering new shows of a similar kind.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Disney is still putting original product on there. And you just look at that and go, "Fucking no."
And it self-perpetuates. Like we're going way down a rabbit hole now, and we're way off topic. But the original,
to be fair, it's better than talking about VR Troopers.
Syphilis is better than talking about VR Troopers. To be fair, like that we did kind of start talking about top slicing of production, and it's exactly that. You know, that is, we're just giving examples there, and that is exactly what it is. Like, you top slice that production, you put it back in to your product.
Yeah.
And this should be better than it is now.
Yeah.
It was followed by Big Bad Beetleborgs, which, again, I know I saw and I can remember nothing about.
It's ringing a bell, but I can't remember it. So I mean, it may be one that when we watch it, I'll go, "Oh yeah, this."
Well, I think I'll do the same because I know that I've seen it, but I don't remember much about it. But as soon as it was suggested to us, I could see the costumes, so I know that I've seen it.
That's it. It's not jumping out to me at all. I've got to be honest.
It may be that we watched that and go, right, okay, that's where the money went, or it may be that we watched that and it's even fucking worse. I don't know. Do let us know, listeners, if you know, incidentally, if you've seen this and you've seen that, then let us know. Like, do we watch it, or are we best just giving it the swerve? Because fuck me, this was painful. I mean, if that's as bad, then
I don't. Given that both were listener suggestions, I don't think we can swerve it. I think we have to lean into it. But
well, I found out today that said listener hasn't actually watched them, though. So you know who you are. So thanks for this.
But I mean, to be fair, I mean, I said to you off air when you told me that I have discussed some of our upcoming shows, and when this one was mentioned, brother-in-law of a friend of mine was very excited because he used to love this. So, Sai, apologies if we've shat on this for you.
Really sorry, but we always. But again, what we see on the show.
If you disagree with us, let us know. Give us a shout. I mean, you've got my number. You can get to us through the ways I'll mention at the end. But yeah, if we missed a point or there's something that you think, actually watch this episode or watch this collection of bits that might change your mind, then let us know, because I remember hating this the first time around. I've got to be honest. I remember seeing it and being really disappointed because it wasn't Power Rangers, even though it tried really fucking hard to be. So I wasn't looking forward to this because I didn't think I was going to like it. And then as we go into it, I think, I might have misread it. I might go back to it and go, actually, yeah, I've misremembered it. For my money, I haven't, but that I may be wrong on that. There may be bits I haven't seen which will change my mind. So if people do know that, let me know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember anything about it at all other than the theme tune, as I say, and I'd forgotten that until it popped back up. So I can't say that I had any real expectation going into this. If anything, I was expecting, as you said, a Power Rangers ripoff, which, if it was just that and the quality was good enough, I'd been fine. I know I said back in our Power Rangers episode, I had a whale of a time rewatching that. I'm not ashamed now to say I enjoy it, and I wasn't ashamed then to say I enjoyed it. I feel like you should be, but I'm not. So I don't give a fuck. All right, if I like something, I like it, and it's simple as that. Unfortunately, I don't like this. It's awful. It's painful to watch. It's dull as dishwater. And that's one thing it absolutely should not be. Let's be fair, because there's fucking men in rubber suits fighting like that. I'm all about watching that. It's fine. But the thing is, the monsters are not even creative.
No,
they all just kind of look like these brown, turgid messes.
Well, that's the thing. At least when you look at Power Rangers, and even like the early seasons of Power Rangers, where it was Rita making them out of clay before like Lord Zed turned up and started doing them a bit better, they always looked. They were different enough. They were unique enough that at least you were okay. It's a different one this week. And if that was, if they were going to be selling toys of Power Rangers, you think, right, okay, well at least the villains look different enough. I mean, as it was, they sold Lord Zed, Goldar, the other one, and the Putty Men, and then the rest of it was all about the fucking Zords, which of course it is. It's the show's about the robots, so why are you going to want anything else? But so I mean, I can understand that. But with this, as I say, they've got these things in suits, and they're all they've got one called Ballistic, who's got guns on his shoulders and a rocket on his back, and you've got one called Eyebar because he's got a dildo-shaped head and a red bar across it, which is his eyes. So they've not even fucking tried here.
I mean,
this is like Stephen King's lamp monster from Family Guy.
Yeah, they're like shit Masters of the Universe characters, basically.
Yeah,
is what they are.
Even down to the names.
Yeah, but then when it even comes to fighting between the two as well, when we're in the fight scenes, like with Power Rangers, like things escalated. Like they'd always start with a fight with just a handful of the putty men, then the monster would show up, then everything would go fucking kaiju, and we'd have to get Megazord in. But actually, they didn't waste time with inane banter between the Power Rangers and the villains, which this seems to love.
Yeah.
And it's not funny is the problem. If you're going to do that, then it needs to be funny. And that's going to rely on being able to see your characters' faces. And you can't because they're inside a fucking suit. Now, Power Rangers recognize that. So why would you then try and do that? Because actually the fights in reality, as it were, like I said, yes, the choreography's bad, but they're pretty entertaining. They're okay. I can see our characters when they're quipping. I can see what they're saying. I get the delivery.
You've got lots of little flicks and little flips and things like that, which make it a bit more exciting than just punch. No, there is some effort in that.
Yeah, and again, when it comes to the footage that they've used and the performances from that original show, and I feel like it's probably unfair for us to criticize that show because we're watching chunks of it, but I am going to talk about the chunks that we're watching. When you're inside these prosthetics, when you're inside these costumes, essentially, there is a level of physicality that you need in your performance. And again, Power Rangers is excellent at that. The Power Rangers do a lot of talking with their hands. They're very, they're very expressive. And we talked just a couple of weeks ago on Better Than Mario when we watched Masters of the Universe. We talked about how a lot of the characters in that were actually really, really good at performing under a shit ton of latex. Like the performances in the characters were shining through. And we gave a lot of props for that. This is the complete antithesis of that. Here is a guy covered under a load of fucking latex. And he's like we were talking about how the facial expressions don't even move.
Yeah.
And I think so. And it's flat. It's flat and boring and horrible. And you don't get any character coming through that performance.
Yeah.
But then what makes it worse is they feel the need to overdub these quips. And it's like, look, this is boring to look at. And it's boring to look at. And that's why you've written the quips in. So fucking cut it. Just cut the fights together. Well, hell, it's not like you need to make sense because you haven't made sense all the way through. So whatever, jump all over the line if you need to. Just make this entertaining because it's not.
But that's the thing, and you look at Power Rangers and say Power Rangers was before this. Obviously, the stock footage was well before. But you look at you did have characters. No, they did build characters. You had Goldar, for example. Mm-hmm. There was another one as well whose name I can't remember. Because there were always two of them, weren't there? And at least with those, you got some acting out of the character. It wasn't just voiceover. You had a face that moved.
Yeah,
and you had a physical person in a suit.
To them. Yeah.
Whereas all the villains here, with the exception of Grimlord, who we never saw fight, we never saw him do anything apart from sit in a chair. The suits they're in, they're all big fucking rubber things, and they almost look like Bowser. They're top heavy because of the shape on them. They're kind of bulbous on the top, and then it's like they missed leg day for about 20 years.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that. So then you think, well, actually the fights aren't even entertaining because these people can't move.
That's what I'm saying. There's no physicality, and the only place there is when they're fighting sort of bad guys is when they fight the minions again in our reality, and you got those guys flick-flacking all over the place, and actually at least trying to express themselves when their facial features are hidden because they've got those sort of masks on. Yeah. So I think that's a big part of my issue with it as well, is that I just can't connect with any of that footage in a way that I can with Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And the annoying thing is that template is there. Yeah. Power Rangers came first. They know how to do this. Yeah. And so the stock footage is the stock footage. If it's not as good as the stock footage you have from Power Rangers, then acknowledge that and work around it. It feels like they've literally just dumped everything in and just gone, fuck it, it'll be all right.
It'll do.
Don't worry.
It'll be fine.
Yeah. So either shoot some more or just work around what you've got. But Jesus Christ, the final product that you've given us is atrocious. This is quite possibly the worst show we've watched on SMPD.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, we've had some we've been disappointed with before, but I mean, this I don't think
There's
we've ever
none
come
that
out
have
and
been
gone.
out and out bad, as a
There's nothing we've come out and gone right. There are no redeeming features in this show.
no, and that is how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I can't say anything good about it.
No,
I
I mean,
really can't.
I watched 44 and a half minutes. That's 2 episodes, and it was 43 minutes and 75 seconds too long.
Yeah, I mean, I broke the hour mark.
Yeah,
So
that was all. That was too much. I couldn't manage anymore. I watched. I think I watched one yesterday, and I watched one. Number two had a doctor's appointment, so I was sat in the waiting room watching that. And literally, when it finished, I thank fuck for that. I can take the pins out of my eyes now.
yeah, this is just fucking awful. It really, and I'm really sorry. Like I know there's going to be fans out there because there's fans of everything. And as we said before on the show, just you do you. If you
Yeah,
like this,
absolutely.
don't let us spoil that for you. This is just our opinion. If you like this, more power to you. I'm glad you like it.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I fucking don't. It's terrible.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. And I mean, as you said, we'll wrap up in a minute, but that's something I'm always pretty keen on, isn't it? There's so much emphasis, especially nowadays, on you have to shit on everything. You're not allowed to like anything. You can only like what everybody else likes. And there's no room for individuality. And everybody, especially with the internet, because the internet is a wonderful, horrible thing, but it exists for people to shit on things they don't like.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done here for the last hour, basically. But you know,
I mean,
don't.
I'd wager we've done that for the last 3 years on one of the other shows as well. But
But yeah, but I mean, as I say, that it's our opinion, and you may agree with it, you may not, and that's absolutely fine.
and we're always very
Um,
clear about that as well.
yeah, no, I mean, we have our opinion, and we encourage people to reach out and tell us why we're wrong. We encourage people to call us dickheads. That's absolutely fine. But again, it's that thing where we have our opinion, you have yours, and that's okay. We're not saying actually this is a load of bollocks, so you're not allowed to. No, you shouldn't like it. We shouldn't watch it, and
Yeah.
that's where as a society we've gone now. It's this whole thing of, well, you can't like that. That's not cool. That's not appropriate. You shouldn't like that. And there's so much pressure on people to go, oh well, yeah, no, actually that thing I really enjoyed, and I've really got a lot out of the last 2 seasons. Yeah, I don't like anymore because somebody called me a prick online.
Yeah, I mean, fuck
And
that. You like
yeah,
what you like.
yeah, that's it. As long as it's, I'll phrase it, as long as it's legal and consensual, like what you like.
I mean, yeah, I wasn't insinuating anything other.
I just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, no, it's that no, it's that no, that's what I'm coming to, because there's no. Let's say I am aware that we do get quite negative on some things, and I don't want that to put people off.
No,
So
absolutely not. Like, if you like this as a kid and you're listening to us now and thinking that, oh, I really like that, I want to rewatch it, then go back and look at some. By all
if you can find
means.
it.
It is out there, just not legally. But we do encourage you to pay for things. If you like it that much, I'm sure you can actually track down some
Yeah,
off-market DVDs or something. Still not giving any money to the creators, but at least someone did somewhere.
yeah,
So do track it down, and if you do enjoy it, then let us know, and let us
yeah.
know what we're missing, because I think it's fucking awful, I'm afraid. I've got nothing good to say about it, and I've tried. That's why I've watched more episodes than you. I just kept thinking it's just the episodes I'm watching. Surely it's just the episodes I'm watching. But then these are the ones that we found, which suggest that these are the ones that the
People
fan
like.
base, think are worth preserving.
Yeah.
So that's a worry. Yeah, I don't have any more to say about it. It's fucking awful. I want to move on to the next thing as quickly as possible. I don't even know what
Well,
the next thing is, but it's going to be.
the next thing is running a cheese grater over your scrotum.
That's preferable to this, I think.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I mean, as we've said, if you do disagree, if this is something that you enjoyed as a child, if it's something that you've kept with you, I mean, there's lots of shows that we've kept with us and we've rewatched over the years. Let us know what we're missing out on. Let us know what point it is that we've missed, because I'm happy to think that actually somebody has more to say about this than we do, having watched a handful of episodes between us. So yeah, get in touch. Let us know what what you like about it, what we've missed, with the things that might change our mind. On Twitter at SMPDpod. You can go to our website, ddpodcast.net, where you can get our previous episodes and other shows as well. On Facebook and YouTube, we're the Double Down Podcast Network. Wherever you get your podcasts from, be it iTunes, Amazon Music, Google Play, wherever they all are. I can't remember. I should write it down at some point, shouldn't I?
Might help. Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, Blueberry, Stitcher.
Yeah, all of them.
I've heard you say it enough.
Yeah, I used to have a post-it note on the front of my computer, but it fell off and then subsequently got thrown away. But yeah, wherever you get your podcast from, like, share, subscribe, leave us a message, and we'll get back to you as best we can. Until next time.
See you later.